It's time to get very controversial. Honestly, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Title's probably misleading. I apologize. These are just the best 90s albums in my mind. And my channel is basically a rock channel, and no disrespect to rap or anything like that. I'm not as educated on that. I am on SoundCloud rap, but 90s rap? Bruh, nah. So here are the best 90s rock albums from Dump Toes. Jesus. This is a video I've been trying to do for a while, but I've never really written crazy notes about it. I've just written a list of albums from these great bands in the 90s. So if you see me rambling and almost repeating the same stuff, that's probably because I didn't write any notes on it, but I'm going to give you the pure vibe check with each of these albums. I am not ranking these albums from whatever to one, but I'm just going to talk about the significance and why I think these are the best albums from the 90s. Oh, before I begin, I totally forgot. I'm only picking one album from each band, so there's not going to be, say, a Smashing Pumpkins. I'm not going to say Gish, Siamese Dream, and Melancholy and Adore. Nope, just one album from each band. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to start off this list with a little bit of Deftones and a little bit of Adrenaline by Deftones, 1995. And obviously not their best album, not by a long shot, but I think that from the 90s era, it's the most interesting album in my mind and the most raw album. So I guess that's what really jumps out in terms of just the energy and this new band having studio time and putting all of their ideas into this album. And, you know, it's just the first album, not their best, obviously, but it's still on my list because it's a very fun time, a lot of stuff going on. But hell yeah, Adrenaline, 1995. Deftones on the list. Not going to go crazy back to back with aggressiveness, but I'm going to go with a little bit more chill, and I'm going to go with some Mazy Star. And what Mazy Star album am I picking? I'm picking Among My Swan, 1996. Mazy Star. Honestly, you could have gone with any of their albums from the 90s, but I feel like this one I relate to a lot, and this is probably not the most depressing, but it's the saddest sounding album that Mazy Star has out to this date. And I do feel like there's some albums where Mazy Star has not a lot of hits. There's some misses, but with this one, I could listen to it from start to finish and be, you know, sad, but it's a beautiful sounding album where it's like, oh my god, anybody who hasn't listened to this has to listen to it, and I definitely want this album by Mazy Star on my list. I am going to keep it a little bit short, and I know I didn't really specify that, but there's just a lot of albums on this list, so I don't want to give like 30-minute descriptions with each album, because no thank you, it is like 9 p.m. That might seem early, but, you know, I get tired, man. I sleep at like 10. 30. There are some basic answers on here, but I kind of looked at the whole thing and I was like, man, it's kind of obvious that this album is their best album. So the next band that I'm going to be talking about is Sonic Youth and the album Goo, which released in 1990. I was trying to make a case for albums like Dirty and every other album that they released in the 90s, but I just felt like there was so many misses and not creative flow where it was like, okay, this is the definitive best album from this band during this time period. And to me, Goo was just the obvious pick, like I said, and there's just a bunch of hits on there. Not every album on here is perfect, but Goo had to go with it. I just love the vision that they had, and it's still iconic, and it's still, to this day, people get some inspiration from this album and Sonic Youth. Let's move on to some Typo Negative, October Rust, 1996. Oh man, I might catch a lot of heat or whatever, but I feel like this is their only good album to me. Their only good album. And I love this album. This album is an amazing time and a lot of memories attached. This album and overall sound from Typo Negative is very, not sinister, but there's a lot of love sounds and a lot of darkness going on. And, you know, that's just Peter Steele and the way that he was. And it showed in the music. And it was the only album that I can gravitate towards in terms of Typo Negative. And I wish I could like other albums, but I guess every other album sounds the same or discount October Rust. I used to have an October Rust shirt and I kind of regret selling that because that would be a sick shirt to have right now as I speak and sit. I know a lot of people know that I've talked negative about Typo Negative, but there is positives within the band, and I wouldn't put them on the list if I didn't think this album was great. Moving on to an influence on Typo Negative. What a segue. Cocko Twins, 1990. Heaven in Las Vegas. A lot of people make fun of how we can't really interpret what the lyrics are. I feel like there's not a lot I could say that a lot of people don't know about this album. To this day, influential. To this day, just picked apart from the sound. I guess that's still influential. But I guess a lot of these bands are influential in some way. A lot of wavy stuff going on. A lot of vocals where you're just like, man, sometimes I wish I could sing like that. And people who try to sing like that, I respect it, but one of one. Okay, let's move on to some less obvious albums, I guess. Sunny Day Real Estate, Diary, 1994. A special album that a lot of people love to this day, and a lot of people should love more. Sunny Day Real Estate, very slept on band. Not in the underground community, I guess, but in the mainstream. A lot of people should know about this band a lot more. Some people say it's the first emo band. From the vocals to the writing to just the whole band's unison to everybody just exploding with the riffs. And it's not like the craziest explosive distorted riffs, but it's just so catchy. And I could talk about this band forever, but I won't. But you should respect this band. Sunny Day Real Estate, Diary, 1994. Shall we move on to some shoegaze, which is basically not all that I talk about, but kind of the main thing about this channel that I really like. And we're going to talk about Slowdive, Souvlaki, 1994. I'm trying to understand or pick through my brain if there's any bands that sound like that now, but not really. I feel like there's a lot more My Bloody Valentine, not clones, but influenced bands, and less Slowdive in terms of the songwriting. And there's a lot less focus on songwriting nowadays, I feel like. Not that that's a bad thing, I'm just pointing it out. I haven't really talked about the album, but dude, start to finish, like the rest of these albums, start to finish, shut the hell up. I know what I'm saying. There's a bunch of bangers on here. Sorry, didn't mean to get so aggressive. That was kind of weird. Might cut that out. I just talked about 2 shoegaze bands, didn't I? Slipped in there. Pause. My Bloody Valentine. Loveless. 1991 action. Everybody knows. Everybody should know. I can't imagine people haven't listened to this. I know people who haven't listened to this. My sister. And she would probably get, not an aneurysm, but she would, not a heart attack, but she would just like be like, turn it off. I don't even have to say that much. My Bloody Valentine, iconic. Loveless, iconic. This band forever influencing everybody. Let's talk about The Sundays, Blind, 1992. I could have gone with Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, but nah, I'm going with Blind. And The Sundays, sort of like Mazy Star, could have gone with any of the albums that they had in the 90s, but you can't go with any wrong. You can't go wrong. The Sundays have no bad songs. I feel like the singer Harriet Wheeler could sing anything and I would just be like in awe. It's crazy the way that she sings. It's not like, I guess, technically a crazy thing, but the way she sings is beautiful. A lot of birds flying around whenever that happens, whenever she's yelling and singing. I was going to say the Sundays are underrated, but I feel like they're not underrated. They were very popular in the 90s, and a lot of people nowadays in my generation love the Sundays. I had to have Nirvana on here, so I'm going with In Utero Again, 1993. Again, a lot of people know it. Again, not much to say. Moving on to some special stuff, man. Drop 19's Delaware, 1992. Sheesh. I know a lot of my audience has heard of this band. I've talked about this band with Alexa and how she put me on to this band, and this album is just something everybody should listen to at some point in their life. Whether it be right now, whether it be in 30 years, whether it be on your deathbed, you must listen to this album. Very special with the songwriting, the riffs. There's some acoustic stuff going on. Not like crazily, but it's hinted in there. Delaware, 1992. What were you guys doing in 1992? I know you guys can't see this shirt, but I'm wearing a Veruca Salt 8 Arms to Hold You shirt, and that's not the album I'm going to talk about. I am talking about Veruca Salt, though. I'm talking about American Thighs, 1995. Hell yes. Banger, banger, banger. Listen to Forsythia, the bass goes crazy, into the guitar. The lyrics with this band, special. Songwriting, special. Generational. Underrated to this day. Can't get enough of this band. Hell yeah. You know what? I'm not even done talking about him. I know a lot of people liked Veruca Salt back in the day. I know that a lot of people nowadays listen to Veruca Salt, but they still don't have the respect, and I don't think they ever will get that respect, which is a shame. A damn shame. We can't do a 1990s amazing albums, best albums, I'm right, you're wrong list without talking about Pavement, Slanted, and Enchanted, 1992. I know a lot of people just don't mess with indie rock for whatever reason, but I feel like 90s indie rock is the perfect creative, chilled out sound you can listen to. And once you get into an album, you can't stop. This is one of those albums. Speaking of 90s bands, and Pavement is a 90s band. Pavement had beef with the Smashing Pumpkins, and the Smashing Pumpkins is next on my list with Gish 1991. Not Siamese Dream, Melancholy, not even Adore. No. Gish. Rhinoceros, their best song ever. I'm not saying it's my favorite. Oh wait, it is. But it's also the best song ever. She knows. Oh, dude, she does know. How did Billy do it? How did it come about? Billy Corgan interview coming soon. Not really. But yeah, man, Smashing Pumpkins' first album. Kind of crazy that that's their first album. It's so polished already. If they just made that album and dipped, people would regard it as one of the best albums of the 90s. I'd rather listen to Gish than Melancholy. I'm not even lying to you. I'm not even saying that to be controversial. I just think it's a better album. Easily? Probably not, but not even 50-50. I just think Gish is better. Rhinoceros, Crush, Daydream. Stop it. Sorry. I'm really aggressive. Let's relax. Let's calm down. Listen to the band Low and their 1994 album, I Could Live in Hope, because that's next on this list if you guys didn't know. That's a fire segue, huh? Yeah, I know. I'm the best. I'm the freaking best, dude. And very sad album, sad sounding band. It's slowcore. For those of you who don't know, it's just playing your instruments in a slow tempo and having these lower vocals, and just, it's very emotional. And this whole album, a lot of people do know within the slowcore, indie rock, I guess alternative rock community, but the mainstream should know about this because this music is special, man. There's music out there that a lot of people could relate to that they don't know exists, and this album is definitely an album that everybody should have on their list in terms of the best albums from the 90s and albums you should listen to, man. If you're in an emotional state, this is probably a band you would like, and you might get more emotional. You know, I feel like you got to get those emotions out in order to move forward. Brings out those emotions in a lot of humans, especially me. Okay, the Helium, The Dirt of Luck, 1995. You might find a little bit strange, and what I mean by that is it's not the mainstream music, it's not the grunge-fronted bands, it's not anything like that. It's a little bit more creative. It's a little bit more an overall vibe. Don't overthink it with this album. There's some moments where it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm trick-or-treating and Halloween's happening right now. I'm a little kid again. There's some moments like that, and that's what I appreciate about this band is they create these scenarios for your brain, and every time that happens, I feel like I give extra points to band because it's hard to do that sometimes. Sometimes I listen to bands and I'm like, okay, nothing's going on in my brain right now. The Dirt of Luck, 1995 on my list. Let's get very aggressive. Let's talk about Helmet, Meantime, 1992. One of my favorite albums ever, with one of my favorite songs ever. In the meantime, that riff, I was with my boo, Alexa. She put me on. She just had it on the radio. We took a right at a light. One of the most fun riffs to play. Helmet does get a lot of respect nowadays, and I love to see that, especially from new bands. And there's a lot of influence, man. There's a lot of influence. The riffs are just crazy with that band. And they're very smart with it. Very, very smart. How could I have a 90s best albums list and not have any Dinosaur Jr. in here? Come on. That'd be silly. You'd be silly. I don't care if you don't like the voice. I don't care. A band that took me a long time to get into. I'm not even going to lie to you. So if you're not into them, totally understand. But once you get into them, everything makes sense. Everything opens up for your mind. And yeah, a lot of people just can't get past the voice, which... Come on, man, grow up. Nah, I respect it though. You know, when you listen to something and you don't like it, you just don't like it. And you can't get into it. That happens to me sometimes, but sometimes with time, I end up liking it for some reason and everything just sounds better and my playlist grows. So Dinosaur Jr., I know, has a lot of people that don't listen because of the voice, and maybe they're just not a fan of killer riffage, but all I'm saying is you're missing out with this album and this band in general, and they are on my list. I gotta talk about Sebadoh, and I gotta talk about Bake Sale, because that album is astonishing. The cover, questionable. I don't know what it is with 90s albums and babies on the cover, but so many great tunes on here. I've always loved the lyrics and just the storytelling from Lou Barlow. Very underrated. And I remember reading an interview. This isn't related to the album, but I remember reading an interview on his influences, and he did not get the hype for Pixies, and everybody in the 90s and in general liked the Pixies, and he didn't. He was just like, I don't get it, and I thought that was funny AF. It was just like this unfiltered thing where I was like, oh man, this dude's a legend. I mean, I like the Pixies, but that's so hilarious. I gotta have some Elliot Smith on here, and my choice for Elliot Smith is his self-titled 1995 album. And I don't know, with these first few albums that come out from bands and artists, I just feel like the raw emotion is something that a lot of people can connect with, and I connect with on a high level because it doesn't show that they're human, but it shows that not everybody is perfect. And we kind of look at artists and bands as perfect sometimes. Elliot Smith, in my mind, has not really any bad projects. There is some moments within these albums where I'm like, okay, I don't really connect to that or like the song. There's just so much good with Elliot Smith, and this album is worth being on my list and anybody's list. I have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. I have to listen to it. You gotta listen to it. Do it, man. I'm not gonna say what's wrong with you. I'm not gonna say that because a lot of people don't know these bands. And I've said a bunch of mainstream bands on my list, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes people just don't know. And that's okay. Nothing to be ashamed of. We just got to spread the music. Like I say at the end of my videos, keep the music alive. We live on Earth, don't we? What's outside of Earth? Space. I guess we're in space, though. Or space just... Okay, whatever. Space rock. I'm going to talk about Failure. Fantastic Planet, 1996. What I really find interesting about Failure is the fact that they just started producing their own stuff, engineering their own stuff, and, you know, I think that's just an awesome thing to do. Can you imagine just having someone who's handy with that knowledge in your band that's just like, hey, let's go record this, let's go release this, you know? And their sound, production, the quality. I'm not really high on quality. Not saying that I want a terrible produced album, but if an album's like not the highest quality, I won't mind, you know, I get it. And sometimes it makes the album sound better, but with this album, it's so noticeable and the riffs are clear and crystal and the spaciousness, reverb and everything, every technological term you can use, this band capitalizes on it on this album. And the last album on my list, the best band of all time. I had a trouble time picking which album I wanted. It was between Downward is Heavenward and it was between You'd Prefer an Astronaut, and that's what I picked. You'd Prefer an Astronaut, Hum, 1995. I could talk about Hum forever, man. I could talk about Hum forever. I could talk about the stories attached to these songs on this album. Honestly, what it comes down to is that I say a lot of these albums are banger after banger, just no misses. I'm not lying to you guys when I say this. I'm not saying I lied before at all, because no, why would I make a video of me lying? What's the point of that? But this album, You'd Prefer an Astronaut, I can listen to on repeat, start to finish to start, in any order. This album is perfection in my mind. Starts off with the song Little Dipper, just explosive guitar on top of guitar on top of guitar. These slacker vocals where it's just like, you know? I know that sounds so stupid, but that mixture just does something to my brain. Everything within this storytelling, riffage heavy, drum slamming band, your favorite band's favorite band. You'd Prefer an Astronaut, Hum. This wraps up my list. Thank you guys for watching. I know I rambled on a long time, but this is my list. I'm right, you're wrong. Wink. And yeah, hope you guys had some good time. What's on your list? Did I mess up? If I did, no, I didn't. Stop it. I'm right. I'm the best of all time. Hopefully, guys, you don't take me too serious when I say that. I'm not that much of a narcissist or idiot. I'm just talking about music. Love all this music. Shout out 90s. Shout out every era. With that being said, like and subscribe. Keep the music alive. My 90s album list is Rye.